Hi, this is Emily Redd, the Thesis Dissertation Coordinator for the School of Graduate Studies, and this is Surviving the Submission Process. What we're going to look at is everything you'll find on the checklist of requirements for this process, and that's everything you'll need to do and everything you'll need to turn in to successfully complete the submission and review process. We're going to look at paperwork, the order of priority that you need to turn things in, deadlines. We're going to look at uploading and what that means and where you need to go, the review process, the editing process, and final approval. So your priority, if you are working within the deadline period for a given semester, your main priority is to upload your committee-approved thesis or dissertation to Digital Commons. That gets you on my list, which gets you on the list in our office, which then gets you on the list in the graduation office. So all of these things are happening toward the end of the semester, and you want to be sure you're on that list for graduation. So upload to Digital Commons, if nothing else, by the end of the day on the deadline. If you're not working within a deadline period, you can do anything on the checklist of requirements in any order, and I will be checking them off as I go. Either way, in order for me to review your thesis or dissertation, I must have, first of all, it needs to be uploaded, but I must have your Turnitin report and your manuscript review form. To receive final approval, after we go through the edit and review process, final approval, I must have everything else on the checklist turned in that pertains to you. So that's your order of priority. Okay, so talking about uploading, you need to convert your final manuscript to PDF format. Then you will go to the ETD website and click on Get Account. This is the link to the ETD website here. Once you click on Get Account, you will create an account and log in. I'm going to show you what that looks like on the next slide. And just please note this is a separate procedure than uploading to D2L for a Turnitin scan. Okay, so to log in, what you need to do if you do not have an existing account, meaning you've not been a master's student here at ETSU and you're not coming back for a doctoral degree, you will need to create an account. So down here is where you'll sign up. Click on Sign Up. Once you click on that, you'll get to this screen, enter your email. I suggest you use your ETSU email. This is just easier to keep up with. You can use any email you want to, but I suggest using ETSU because you can remember it. This system has a feature of finding your login for you if you forget it, so that's there just in case. But enter in an email address, your first name, your last name, create a password. Again, I suggest you use your ETSU email and password for this. It's what you've used for everything ETSU, just an easier way to remember it. Confirm your password and then create your account. Once you create this account, follow the little instructions on the checklist to submit your research, find the thesis dissertation link, agree to the terms, fill out your profile. Your profile will consist of your name, your committee members' names, your abstract, and several other questions. And at the very bottom of that profile is where you will upload your thesis or dissertation. Once you've uploaded, you've clicked on the Submit button, you will get a congratulations, you've successfully submitted screen on the next screen, so you'll know you've done it right. If you have any questions about uploading, you can always email me just to double check. I don't mind. Okay, moving on with paperwork. The Turnitin report needs to be set up by your committee chair. The Turnitin program, or the software at ETSU, the license is only for faculty, so students do not have direct access to Turnitin. So you need your chair or someone on your committee's help to do this. Your chair can set it up in D2L using a Dropbox, or they can use their own account through Turnitin, through ETSU, to submit directly to the program. You and your chair need to examine the results. This is not something that I review. I don't look at the score. The Turnitin report is a tool for you and your chair to use to go through and make sure you have done everything you need to do to make sure citing is clear and correct and that nothing's been missed. There is a 20 megabyte limit for what you submit to the Turnitin program, so if you have a file that is more than 20 megabytes, it contains pictures or video, You can exclude those images from your manuscript and just submit the text, because the text is what we're wanting to screen to begin with. So if you have, mostly if your chair has any questions with the setup, the running of the report, and the getting of the report in PDF format, he or she can click on this link or go to the support page, and there's a person that's available. Chelsea Dubé is her name. She's available to help with this, and she's been very helpful for faculty in the past several years since we started this requirement. So get support if you need it from her. What I will need is the PDF format of this report. So you or your chair can download this report from D2L or from the website if they used it that way, and email it to me in electronic format to me, red@etsu.edu. If the report itself is over 20 megabytes and you cannot send it via email, we have an ETSU Dropbox available. This is something that your chair, myself, and you all have access to. It's not unique like a Google Drive or something like that that somebody may not have an account for. So use this Dropbox to send it if it's too large. The next thing to do is to fill out the manuscript review form with your committee. And this is, filling it out with your committee is to ensure that all items on the form are filled in. There's a grade change question at the very top of the form that your chair will need to mark. It's a yes or no question as to whether he or she would like our office to change your grade from SP to S upon approval. And that's a service we will provide, and that's a very important grade change to ensure that you are on the list for graduation. So we will do that for you. If not, your department is in charge of doing it, but that's a yes or a no for your chair to answer. Also, your committee chair must read and sign the bottom portion where the signatures are. All of that certifies that he or she has read the manuscript, that he or she has looked through the Turnitin report, and it all checks out. The chair will sign, the rest of your committee will sign, and make sure you sign and date at the bottom. If you have trouble gathering signatures, and this is often an issue when committee members are scattered, if it's possible to get them all at the defense, try to get the signatures done at the defense. If everyone's happy with what you've done, they're ready to sign off, go ahead and get everybody to sign. If not, someone in your department may be able to route the form around for you. A committee member may offer to route the form for signatures for you if you're a distance student and you've come on campus for your defense and you have to leave again. Otherwise, it is up to you to get the signatures collected. In the summertime, there's an extra added issue. Summertime and holidays, really, there's an extra issue with gathering signatures sometimes. So, if your committee member or committee chair is unavailable to sign the form, you can scan it in and email it to them. As long as the scan is clear and I can read the signatures, all of that will be fine. Also, if there is not an ability to scan, then the absent committee member can authorize another committee member to sign on his or her behalf. I just need to have an email showing that that is okay. The next form on the list is the ETSU ETD release form. This is where you will choose what kind of access you want for your thesis or dissertation, and ETSU offers 3 options: unrestricted, restricted, and withheld. Please read through the descriptions of each of these and go over them with your chair if you're unsure of which one to choose. The next form is the ProQuest form. After choosing the access level from the ETSU ETD release form, follow the provided instructions. So on the checklist of requirements, which I keep referring to in this PowerPoint, please download the checklist of requirements from the ETSU ETD page. There are instructions specifically designed for this form. The ProQuest form is a long form, but you do not need to do most of what the form tells you, and I've noted what to do and what not to do within the form. All you need to do is fill out pages 4 and 5 in that form. The instructions on the checklist will detail, if you have chosen unrestricted, what to do on pages 4 and 5, mostly page 4. If you've chosen restricted, what do you do on page 4? And if you've chosen withheld, exactly what to do on page 4 and why. So read through those instructions. If there are any questions about the instructions, please don't hesitate to email me. Okay, other requirements on the checklist are the IRB memo if applicable to you. If you used human subjects in your research, you would have gone through the IRB office, and they will issue you an exemption memo, a exclusion memo, or an approval memo. I will need that memo. You can download it and send it to me electronically, or turn it in paper format. Either way is fine. A relatively new rule, and this is noted on the checklist also, do not include anything IRB related in your appendices. Okay, we do not want anything IRB related, IRB memo, IRB informed consent forms, anything like that in your appendix. This is a new rule as of January or February 2018. The survey of earned doctorates, it also needs to be filled out if applicable. There are a list of PhD degrees underneath that and the codes associated with those degrees. Use those codes for that survey. This is for PhD students only, so DRPH do not fill out. Ed Leadership does not fill this out either. Pay your microfilm fee by the deadline listed in the academic calendar. This deadline is a little bit later than the initial submission deadline. Most students choose to pay the microfilm fee all at the same time so they don't forget. But the microfilm fee is a graduation checkout requirement, and that is monitored by your graduate program specialist in the graduate school. It's not something I monitor, but that is a requirement of graduation from the graduate school at ETSU. So be aware of that deadline. Moving on down the checklist, it's also noted that if you have images in your thesis or dissertation that you have used that have been directly copied from a source, you must have or show or demonstrate that you have permission to use them. Okay, that these images are visual representations of an idea, of data, of processes, and they are subject to more protection than text. So if you're choosing to use an image, be sure you know where it's coming from. How and from where you have retrieved this image will determine what kind of permissions are needed. Okay, you also want to investigate if permission is declared or needs to be granted. So sometimes there is permission declared on a web page. It says anything on this web page, images, data, text, everything is available for you to use and redistribute. It's free to use. It's all okay. That's enough. That's good. That's all I will need just a copy of that web page, or I will need a link to where it states that. Otherwise, you need to gain permission for use of that image. Permissions are also needed for large sections of quoted material, like a play, or a screenplay, or an entire poem. This does not mean this is a block quote. A block quote would be a section of material. This is an entire poem. Say you inserted Beowulf in your appendices. That's not okay without getting permission. You will also need to get permission for survey instruments. You may have received permission to use the survey instrument in your research when you're conducting your research, but you may not have gotten permission to display the survey instrument in your appendix. Be sure you have permission to display it. Your thesis or dissertation is going to be posted online, essentially redistributed all over the world. So if that instrument is available by you and not by the original creator, that may be an issue. If you have a published journal article where the copyright is now held by the journal itself and no longer you need permission to display your own journal article in your thesis because it's no longer your copyrighted work. And this applies for the alternate format only. If you have an image that you have used with permission, you need to cite that image. So down here at the bottom left of this screen, you'll see figure 1, and it's an image, and it's used with permission. So you'll cite it, you'll have the title there, and you'll have used with permission, and then the source. Over here on the right, if you have chosen to adapt an image, you do not need permission. You just need to cite it, and cite it as adapted from the source. So say I've redrawn this image It is now my visual interpretation of this process, so that's my drawing, but the information comes from this source. Multimedia. Multimedia is using more than one medium of communication. This includes video, audio, animations. I highly encourage you to think about how these enhancements could benefit your thesis or dissertation to help communicate the ideas you're trying to get across. Don't do this, don't create a video, don't insert audio or any kind of animation if it doesn't enhance the understanding and the communication. So consider what could be benefited by this. These are electronic documents. They're powerful. They can be viewed on multiple devices. And if you need help with creating a video, an audio, or animation, or even inserting these into your document, there are some resources here on campus. One thing you can look up first is it is a subscription-based resource, but it was recommended by ATS at ETSU. It's called lynda.com. You can pick up the subscription for a month and then drop it, or you can pick it up 2 months later and then drop it again. So this is a nice source that has a lot of tutorials about how to create videos and audios and other things to enhance your documents. There are also many tutorials on YouTube. If you want to know how to do anything, you can look it up on YouTube and play it and step by step figure it out. ATS also has one-on-one support for GAs or TSs. If you are a GA or TS, they can meet with you and work with you on your project. All of the workshops available through ATS are also available to GAs and TSs, so take advantage of those. If you decide to use a video, especially an audio of someone's voice, be sure that the IRB is aware of what you're using early on, so you get permission to do that through them. Okay, the review process. I will be doing a format check, and this is a style guide blend from our graduate school thesis dissertation guide and your departmental style guide. So I'll be looking for you to follow the general guidelines for formatting for all ETSU theses and dissertations. That's including the title page, the abstract, table of contents, lists of tables and figures, and the vita. Your departmental style guide will guide you on citations and references in whichever style is assigned to your department. If you do not know what style guide you should be following, please ask your committee and committee chair first. But you can also look this up in the thesis dissertation guide underneath your discipline. So these are the grad school general guidelines. There are many guidelines, but these are the ones I get most questions about. Your margins should be at least 1 inch on all sides, so don't make them uneven, like 2 inches on one side and 1 inch on one. 1 inch on all sides, so it's nice and even. Use a standard font and font size throughout. Standard font would be Times New Roman or Arial or Calibri. These are standard fonts that are viewable easily on all devices, and keep your font size the same throughout. Pagination, your page numbers should be at the bottom center of each page, and they should be numbers and no Roman numerals. And your page numbers should start on page 2 with the abstract, so your title page will not have a page number on it. No running headers. Table titles will go above the tables and figure captions go below the figure. Your references should be either hanging indent or numbered depending on your style guide. Double check that text and images begin at the top margin of every page. And it is okay to look up recently approved theses or dissertations in the last 3 years or so. In your discipline. Be sure it's in your discipline because there are some variances, and you can use that as a model or a guide. So here's the standard format. This is the organization of your manuscript. This is the order in which you will see things appear, you will place things in your document. So first you'll have the title page, followed by the abstract. A copyright page, dedication, and acknowledgments are all optional, but they would go in that order if you had them. Table of contents after that. List of tables and figures will follow. Each of these are on their own page. So if you have 2, the list of tables is on one page, list of figures is on the next, and we don't require you to have a list of tables or figures if you have fewer than 5 entries. Then you have the body of your manuscript, followed by your references, an appendix or an appendices if you have that, not required, and a reminder, no IRB forms are going in your appendix from now on. And the last page will be your vita. All right, the alternate format, you will follow the same order of information as the standard format, but these are the things that are slightly different. Chapter 1 will be an introduction that includes a statement of hypotheses. Chapter 2 will be one journal article for a thesis or a series of journal articles for a dissertation. These are presented as separate numbered chapters, so if you have more than one, it will be chapter 2, then chapter 3 will be a separate article, chapter 4 will be a separate article, and so on. These articles should be in the format that they would be published in, so figures need to be inserted into the body of the text and not at the end. You need to include an abstract and references, and you also need to include the authors at the very beginning and anything else that the journal requires. Chapter 3, or if it happens to be 4 or 5, if you have multiple journal articles, will be a final chapter for a dissertation. A thesis advisory committee may or may not request this. It is not required for a thesis, but dissertations must have that final summary chapter. The other thing that is different about an alternate format thesis or dissertation is the numbering of your tables and figures. You need to use a chapter numbering system so that say chapter 2 is a journal article, it already has existing tables and figures in it, and it is listed in 1 through 4, so you need to change those to chapter 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4, so that you don't have multiple table 1s throughout your dissertation. So for the graduate school guidelines, follow the sample pages in the thesis or dissertation guide exactly for the title page and the abstract. And something to note for the abstract, be sure that your abstract is 150 words or less for a thesis, or 350 words or less for a dissertation, and that the paragraphs are unindented. If you have more than one paragraph, add an extra line space between them for separation. Follow the sample pages for the table of contents, the lists of tables and figures. Follow for your vita, and limit your vita to no more than 2 pages of the most recent and relevant information. Please note here, this is not your curriculum vita, or this is not a resume. This is a particular type of vita specifically for a thesis or dissertation at ETSU. So follow that guide, that sample page. And also follow the guidelines for your subheadings and your headings. Our example for chapter headings and subheadings formatting is going to be, this chapter heading is centered and in all caps, and subheadings can be either italicized or underlined, but the first level will begin centered and the second level will be flush with the left margin. And the third level will begin the paragraph, so it's indented with the paragraph followed by a period, and it will be in sentence style. If it is suggested to you to use APA formatting for headings and subheadings, we ask that you use a blend to comply with ETSU Grad School guidelines. The blend will look like this. Keep your chapter headings in all caps and centered and not bolded. Then after that is where you can begin APA style for heading or for subheadings. Your first level subheading will be centered and bolded as APA shows in their guide, followed by the second level, and so on. For your departmental style guides, meaning APA, MLA, CSE, Turabian, etc., I will be checking in-text citation formatting. I'm familiar with all of them. I'm not an expert in all of them, but I'm familiar in what they are supposed to look like and what flow they're supposed to be in. I'll be checking table and figure caption formatting. This is really specific to APA and CSE. They have their own requirements for those. And I'll be checking your references. You are responsible for writing in the style of your discipline. You are responsible for grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure, chapter organization and flow, and ensuring quoted and paraphrased material is cited. And this is what the Turnitin report can help you and your chair sort through. You are also responsible for making sure the text is clear and has continuity. Okay, so when you receive notes back from me, you will get a PDF back with sticky notes in them, and they'll look something similar to this. I will have a mark in the text, and they will be connected to a sticky note. Most of them will be connected to a sticky note, so if you do not see the notes pop up, you can double click on the highlighted portion or the line or the arrow or whatever annotation I make, and it will pull up the sticky note. There's also a margin on the right side that shows all of the notes as well. If you don't see the notes, that means you are probably not opening your file in Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Pro X. You cannot open these files in a generic PDF viewer, or you will not see the notes. So make your corrections in your Word document or whichever word processing file you used, convert back to PDF, and resubmit via the website, or that's Digital Commons. So you'll log back in, upload your file there. You should expect at least 2 rounds with me, and then 1 more round for final approval with the dean. And how quickly you get finished depends on when you submit, if your paperwork is all in, and how many corrections are needed. I do communicate very heavily during deadline time. I will tell you that I have received your submission. I'll tell you when you can expect to receive the submission back, no later than. Same with the resubmissions. You can hear back from me no later than, and I'll give you a date. I want to be sure that you are clear on when you're going to be getting things back, and that you should be working diligent to make those corrections and upload, because I review in the order in which I receive submissions. So the quicker you get it back to me, the quicker that I will get it back to you and hopefully get finished. So final approval looks like this. Associate Dean Dr. Kirkby, Dr. Scott Kirkby, will look over the final manuscript for approval. If he has any notes, I will send those back to you via email. You make the corrections and upload it back. Once I get it back from you, an automated email will be sent once approval has been processed. So that's how you receive final approval, will be by email. So just to recap, the initial deadline is about 4 weeks prior to graduation. The final deadline to have approval from the dean or associate dean is about 3 days before graduation. So you don't want to be waiting to the last minute. The quicker you can get it back to me, the quicker I'll get to it, and the quicker we'll get approval. You must have approval before the final deadline to graduate. This is a lot of information, so if you have any questions about anything you've heard on this PowerPoint, 1, please visit the Thesis Dissertation website. The Thesis Dissertation Guide is there, as well as the checklist of requirements for this process. The checklist is a 1-page checklist, and it contains everything that was talked about in this PowerPoint. Both email addresses here go to me at this time, so feel free to email me about anything. I'm best reached by email. I do have office hours, and they are noted on my website, on the ETD website. The etd@etsu.edu email is what I will be sending notes back to you from. I keep those 2 separate so that I don't clutter up my outbox and my inbox. But just note those are both coming from me. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to working with each of you.